Hello everyone, I'm Fraser2098 to give you the latest chapter review for Shokugeki no Soma, chapter 155, which yet to has a name. The site that I'm reading it off of doesn't really have a name yet, so that's very much so interesting. But anyways, let's get on with the chapter. So the chapter basically opens up with Yuki kind of making a funny retort about what Izuma said. It's like, you are all the pieces on a chessboard. And it's like, what the hell does that mean? We need to get salt, man! And Fumi's like, don't bother wasting the salt, man. It's not worth wasting the salt. And the whole point is that Izuma's a demon, they spread salt. If you ever watch Supernatural, which I haven't, but you can only assume that this is just like your very basic take away the demon thing. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, Yuki convinces Nakiri to go out, and it's like, this is bad, we gotta go out, Nakiri. And this is moments before last chapter where it was the big reveal where someone's like, yeah, Saibo Junichiro, he's my dad. And it's like, what the what? It's like, I wanted to see how this was gonna go down. Like, boom, chapter came out today, I gotta read. And it's like, oh, it's a page of like flashback. Clever mangaka, you were very clever. So anyways, Nakiri is then outside and she hears it. We know she hears it, and Izuma's there and he hears it and he's like, what do you mean by this? He's like, there's no deep meaning, anything. He is my dad. And then she's like, well, like, everybody's like, what? Well, not everybody, but like specifically, the Aldini brothers are there to basically be in disbelief. It's like, who's this guy? Well, they're not in disbelief. They're like, who are you talking about? Who's this dude? And it's like, oh, Saibo Junichiro. You know, he was like second seed at the time. They're like, what? And everybody was like, what? Well, not everybody. Again, the Aldini brothers, Nakiri, both Nakiris, and it's like, what? And it's like, yeah, we took a photo with them during the break. And you see the photo. It's photographic evidence that he was actually there with them. And it's like, what? And then Nakiri kind of becomes like, she has this realization that the chef that I idolize is Yukihira's father. And I called this man trash. She like kept dissing Yuki. You could see throughout the entire series that Yukihira was getting dissed by this woman. She did not like him. She called him lower than trash, like scum, like like a dog. He was nothing to her. And she's like, wait a second. The man I idolize and his cooking that I actually like Yukihira is the product of this man. Holy shit. Boom! This is exactly what we needed. I thought that they would go longer with this reveal, like they would continue on, like not revealing it, but they did, so that was interesting. And then like Izuma's there, and he's like, wait a second, what a coincidence that was it the son of the senpai who I admire is in the same year as my daughter. Coincidence? And then there's a little back and forth, not a back and forth, but a little discussion between Arina and Izuma, where it's like, wait, father, you know who this man is? It's like, yeah, he was in my generation. It's like, how do you know who he is? It's like, well, he used to work with us. I don't think, because Izuma, when he got kicked out, I don't think he was there when the chef was appointed to be with Arina. And it was like, it would have been sweet if they had like talked, but evidently there was no like conversation after Soma's father had left with him. So that's why he couldn't really see him, and that's why Irina actually looked up to him before the whole mishap with her god tasting abilities. So Izuma is thinking, it's like, wait a second, is this a setup? Like, who could have orchestrated this? This is actually rather brilliant. And we know a couple chapters ago that the original head, the grandfather to Arina, actually asked Yukihira's father, Saiba, to say, and asked him, and he was like, hey, could you bring Soma over to our academy? Which he didn't need to, but I assumed he was like, fine, I might as well owe you, old man, or something like that. It's like, hey, you can take my stuff, because like, Soma really didn't have didn't get a chance to say yes or no. He did not have an option. It was pre-planned, and everybody saw this. Well, not everybody. It was just the two who was kind of like co-conspirating about this, and it was really funny when Soma just came into the academy. He's like, "What the fuck?" And yeah, it started out from there, from that exact moment. They wanted Arina and Soma to meet, and you knew this was gonna happen. So anyways, Izuma is basically saying, I will bring salvation to what was destroyed and that ruined my dear Cyber Sensei and Senpai, not Sensei, Senpai. And it's like, everybody's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? It's like, what do you mean ruin Cyber? So what I can imagine is that there's probably some sort of conflict with Cyber and the school, or like the culinary world or something. Something must have happened to make Cyber leave. My theory is that Cyber actually fell in love and, did, like, the whole theory about him leaving was basically he fell in love and that was it. That was like, that's why he kind of didn't want to do anything. And I don't think Izuma quite understands that. I could be wrong in that theory. Maybe they'll explain it later on to chapters to come. But that was my theory, that Cyber met Yukihira's mother, they had a kid, Yukihira, and he just kind of stopped. He just, they shacked up in a small little run-of-the-day mill and left it like that. So anyways, Izuma starts leaving to go back into his car, and he's basically, I can't tell if he's inner monologuing or he's saying it to everybody, but he's basically saying that sooner or later you'll all be thrust into a war, which we'll get back to that in a moment. But basically he's now saying that I'm happy that I met my senpai's son, because now I can show him the ways and even maybe make my senpai proud. Which he won't, because the senpai is like, what the fuck is this guy? Like, a couple chapters ago when he was, do you remember when he was having like a small lunch, just a casual, like, he was at a cafe with Dojima senpai, and when they both heard the news, they were like, what the fuck, what? Why is he back? So I don't think he's going to be proud at all to see his old classmate back. That's, if he ever comes back, which I don't think he will be coming back in, like, maybe a couple chapters to come, quite a bit, but if he does come back, there'll definitely be a confrontation that will be probably freaking epic. So in the next screen, this is basically the point where we realize, hey, Cyber Jurichiro is at the middle of everything. He is the middle of, like, this whole kind of conflict. Like, the middle of everybody's attention, the whole reason Soma was there, the whole reason Izuma wants to reform Tutsuki, the whole reason Arena admires, like, his cooking. I don't know what Arena has to do with anything, but like maybe she'll like Soma a little bit more because of this piece of information. But it's because of this man that the whole world is the whole culinary world is now changing. I just find that kind of rather interesting. The man who wanted to be left alone, the man who left, didn't even graduate to Tutsuki, the man who left was like, I really don't want to be a part of this. And he is a part of this. This is so funny. How ironic, basically. And then Fumio-san is there, and she's basically like, salvation? Yeah, right, you just want revenge. And so, when she says revenge, I can only assume revenge because he had left him, or had beaten him. Because, don't forget, how back then, like very, very much so back then, with how the generations of the Elite 10 worked, it was, number 1 was Dojima, number 2 was Cyber Jurichiro, and number 3 was Nakari Izuma. Which I can only assume that he wanted revenge because he couldn't have a Shokugeki with his senpai, or rather because his senpai had left him, and like, just, you know how like underlings like very much so admire their senpai in like anime, and if they do something shitty to them, they'll hate him for life or something like that. It's very yandere of him. Alright, now we get to a specific scene in which it kind of pisses me the fuck off, but you expected this. You expected this to happen. It's basically a couple days later after the whole confrontation happened, Izuma's there to address an issue with the 7th seat. As we all know, the 7th seat is Ishiki-senpai. Ishiki-senpai is the 7th seat, and he's with the Polar Star Dome. And Izuma's basically saying, yeah, well, you and the 3rd seat, Megishima, and the 8th seat, Kuga. Don't forget, Kuga was the guy who was up against Soma, and Soma lost. And they're like, yeah, I kicked them out of the Elite 10, so they're now no longer part of the Elite 10 and can no longer make decisions with us. Because those are the people, I swear there was 4 people, but those are the people, Arena. Those are the people who didn't vote to keep him into power. So he was like, you know what, I'm gonna Adolf Hitler this, and that's to you, basically. Oh my god, and like, they're gone now, and it's very heartbroken, because now, it kind of like lifts something off my mind. I always thought Ishiki-senpai was kind of evil, like he had his like methodic ways, but like they evidently no, he can't do shit now. So my theory is that, or rather a discussion for you guys, is what happens now to him, because he's no longer the 7th seat. Mind you, this man also kicked out the 3rd fucking seat. That's pretty high up on the list. Not the 1st seat, obviously, because he voted with them. I think they knew that they wanted to vote with him, but he took away the 3rd seat. That's very high up on the list. I expected like somewhere from seat 5 and above, but he went to the top 3 and kicked out the 3rd guy. So that's something. So anyways, the discussion with you guys is what happens to Ishiki-senpai at this point, because his power kind of revolves around his seating. Because he was the 7th seat, he had talked to a lot of people and like met a lot of people and traded. So I don't know if specifically he's going to lose this respect or lose his position in the culinary world. I just don't know. Maybe they'll keep him because they're like, yeah, Aizuma's a dick. Or they might just like shun him because he's no longer the 7th seat and no longer a very important man to like talk to at this point. Another thing to mention is Rindero in the next scene is like complaining to him. So, like, you don't have to kick him out, you know? She's like trying to urge him not to do it, but like they're gone. They're out of there. And it's funny because Ishiki knew this was going to happen. He's like, well, I expected this sooner or later. I'm just glad you didn't now. So this can somewhat make me believe that he maybe has he did something with his power before he was kicked out that will eventually help the Polar Star Dome and help the other people who don't agree with this tyranny rule. And that'll be interesting to see. Again, I'm just overthinking this thing, but it'd be interesting to see if he had like pulled some strings before he was knocked out of the Elite 10. And he brings up a point. He's like, hey, your daughter, I noticed that she's not out of the Elite 10. And he's like, well, yeah, because eventually she'll come back to my ways, like the sadistic bastard he thinks he is. And he kept the Shokugekis. He's like, hey, I'm an honorable man. You know, everybody can fight, but I'm sending the best of the best. Literally, he decides to send the 5th seat, the 3rd seat, the 9th seat, and the 9th seat got his ass whooped, but still, whatever. And Rindero-senpai to basically whoop their asses. So everybody can participate in a Shokugeki and try to defend their club and whatnot, but they're going to get their ass kicked, is what I'm saying, because you have a group of the Elite 10, I believe. How many members? You have 5 of the members basically going to kick a lot of people's asses unless other people intervene. So other people such as Soma, Alice, Nakari Alice, Arena Nakari, basically maybe certain people from definitely Ishiki could probably take out the 9th, the Alchemist. Anyways, this is basically the Elite 10 can... well, not the Elite 10, my bad. The 3 people who were kicked out of the Elite 10 can fight for their place, but they can only challenge the other Elite 10 members, and none of them are going to accept that because they know how good they are. They're not going to accept that. They're definitely not going to accept the 3rd seat one, and they're definitely not going to accept Ishiki's one. The 8th seat one, I don't know, maybe, but like everybody else, not so much. So they get given these little badges in which they are now... Oh God, I don't want to make the analogy, but like throughout history, certain people, military people, have had these badges to identify them as, you know, these people who work for this man, and so they have the Azumi flower badge symbol, and and literally the last panel of the page is, it's time to start the survivors hunt. That is creepy. So all the survivors that are there, they're gonna not kill them, but like take them down through culinary means and skills. So holy crap. This chapter was amazing, but it's the last 3 chapters, 149 to now, have just been basically kind of a build up to what's gonna come, what's gonna come is basically an arc of war. It's gonna be the war arc, basically, where all the people and like even other recurring characters such as the Spice Guy and all the other characters I mentioned before are gonna come back and challenge these people to keep the respective clubs. Definitely the Spice one is going to have to try to battle to keep its club, because that's also up for grabs and is going to probably be taken away. The Polar Star Dome is safe. Definitely, I suppose the Meat Master will have to try to save the Dawn RS, because that's definitely up for grabs as well. Megumi's one is definitely up for grabs as well. Everybody's, the Smoke Club as well. Everybody's club is basically up for grabs. So everybody has to hone on their skills and improve. Or maybe not everyone, but just a certain handful of people definitely need to do that. So anyways, this chapter was great. I can't wait for the next week's one, definitely. If I got some certain like positive feedback about this, I might continue doing this series, but this is definitely something that I inspired to do. It's basically manga chapter reviews. Yeah, I want to become one of those guys. It'll be fun to see, and we'll add some funny things and, interact with you, and it'll be fun. Anyways, I have been Frazier298, and I shall see you in the next Shokugeki. Peace.